Hey guys, welcome back to FiliFest TV. Again, I'm Ranch.
And my name is Heather Reyes-Smith.
We are back today to do another set of soft-spoken Alamat ASMR.
As you know, FiliFest is celebrating Filipino mythology and folklore in the month of October. For this Alamat ASMR episode, we will be reading The Legend of Mariang Makiling, as told by Jose Rizal in 1890 in the Spanish publication La Solidaridad. This was an important publication for the Filipino propagandists who lived in Europe, and Rizal often published articles with aliases such as Laong Laan.
So this reading is an English translation of the legend of Mariang Makiling from the original Spanish, written by Jose Rizal and translated by Arnold H. Warren. In my town, there is preserved the legend of Mariang Makiling. She was a maiden who inhabited the beautiful mountain which separates the provinces of Laguna and Tayabas. It is supposed that her residence was never a fixed location. Those who, lost in the forest, who had the fortune to encounter her after wandering for much time, have not been able to return, have not been able to find the road, are not in agreement as to the location or in its description. While some give it as a beautiful palace, brilliant as a reliquary of gold, surrounded by gardens and beautiful parks, others declare that they saw only a miserable hut, with a patched roof and walls of sawali. Similar contradictions may give place to the belief that they mention gracefully the one as much as the other. It is true. But it may also be that Mariang Makiling had two dwellings, like many wealthy persons. According to eyewitnesses, she was a young girl, tall, well-shaped, with large black eyes, long and abundant hair. Her color was a clear and light brown, takayumangging kaligatan, as the Tagalog says. Her hands and feet small and exquisite, and the expression of her face always grave and serious. She was a fantastic creature, half nymph, half sylph, born of the rays of the moon of the Philippines, in the mystery of its august forests, and to the lullaby of the murmurs of the neighboring lake. According to general belief, and contrary to the reputation attributed to the nymphs and goddesses, Mariang Makiling is preserved always a virgin, slender and mysterious as the spirit of the mountain. An ancient servant whom we have, an Amazon, who defended her home against the Tulisanes and killed one of them with a thrust of a lance, assured me that in her childhood she had seen her at a great distance, passing above Taquigonales, so nimble and airy that not even the flexible blades of grass were bent. They say that on the night of Holy Friday, when the hunters light bonfires to attract the deer with the odor of the ashes to which they are so addicted, they discerned her at a distance, immobile at the brink of the most dangerous abysses, leaving her hair to float in the wind, all inundated by the light of the moon. They say also that at times she has designed to approach them. Then she saluted ceremoniously, passed, and disappeared in the shadow of the adjacent trees. For the rest, all liked and revered her, and no one dared at any time to question her, follow her, or spy on her. She has been seen also seated for long hours in a rock at the bank of a river, as though contemplating the slow course of the waters. There is not lacking an old hunter who asserts that he has seen her bathing in some hidden spring at midnight, when the crickets sleep, when the moon reigns in the midst of silence, and nothing disturbs the spell of the solitude. In these same hours, and in the midst of the same circumstances, is when also the sound of her harp can be heard, mysterious and melancholy. Those who hear it are stopped because it is removed to a distance, and is extinguished when an attempt is made to hunt for it. Her favorite walk was, as they say, after the storm. At the time she went surveying the fields, and wherever she passed she restored life, order, calm. The trees straightened their bent tree trunks, The rivers were locked in their channels and the tracks of the unchained elements were obliterated. When the poor rustics of the slopes of Makiling needed clothing or jewels for the solemnities of life, she loaned them upon condition of returning them and of giving in addition a white hen that had not hitherto laid eggs. A pullet, as they say. Mariang Makiling was very charitable and had a kind heart. How many times has she not, in the form of a simple rustic, aided the poor old people who went to the forest for firewood, or to gather wild fruits, giving to them grains of gold, money, reliquaries, and jewels. A hunter who one day pursued a wild boar across the grasslands and through the thorny bushes of the thicket discovered unexpectedly a hut where the animal was hidden. From the hut emerged a short time a beautiful maiden who said to him calmly, "The wild boar belongs to me, and you have done harm in pursuing it. But I see that you are very fatigued, that your arms and legs drip blood. Enter, therefore, eat, and later pursue your way." The man, confused and surprised, and in addition fascinated by the beauty of the maiden, entered, ate mechanically all that she offered him, without being able to speak a single word. Before his departure, the maiden gave him some pieces of ginger, recommending that he give them to his mother for her sauces. The hunter put them in the ba'at of his salakot, and, after giving thanks, he withdrew, resigned to his loss of the wild boar. At the half of the journey, feeling that the salakot burdened him, he removed many of the pieces of ginger and threw them away. But what was his surprise and grief when on the following day, his mother found that what they believed to be ginger was solid gold, relucent as a coagulated ray of the sun. But Mariang Makiling was not always bountiful and agreeable with the hunters. She was also revengeful. Although her vengeances never were cruel, the maiden always preserved the tender heart of a woman. Two famous hunters one afternoon descended the mountain, carrying some wild boar and deer which they had hunted during the day. They met an old woman who asked them each to give her a piece of the meat, and they, considering the demand exuberant, refused. The old woman departed, saying that she would go to give part to the woman who owned these animals, at which the hunters scoffed. The night having already begun, and when the two were near the plain, they heard a cry, distant, very distant, as if it had burst from the summit of the mountain. The cry was strange and said, "Huya, Huyo." And another cry, still more distant, answered, "Huya, Huyo." That cry surprised both hunters. They did not know to what to attribute it. Their dogs, upon hearing it, raised their eyes, growled a little, and approached the hunters. After some minutes had passed, the same cry resounded again, but this time in the skirt of the mountain. Upon hearing it, the dogs put tail between legs and drew close to their masters, as though seeking protection. These, for their part, looked astonished, without saying a word, questioning with their gaze. They were surprised that those who launched that cry had travelled so far in so short a time. Now in the plain, the sinister cry resounded again, but this time so clear and so distinct that both instinctively turned their head. Then by the light of the moon they discerned at a distance two colossal forms, strange, descending the mountains with all rapidity. One of the hunters, the most intrepid, sought to stop them and to load his firearm, but arrested by the other, also sought to run with the celerity which the weight which he carried would permit. But the strangers were approaching, their footsteps announced, so that, having reached a spring which is called Bukal, the hunters removed their burdens, climbed a tree, and from there awaited the arrival of the monsters, the triggers of their firearms raised. Their dogs, in the meantime, upon seeing that they were deserted, full of a panic terror, turned to flee in the direction of the town without uttering a single bark. The monsters arrived, and their appearance froze the blood in the veins of the hunters. He who related to me this adventure, a nephew of one of the hunters, did not describe the form of the strangers. The only detail which he gave me were the fangs which glistened in the light of the moon. It is all that he heard from his uncle. In a few seconds the monsters ate the wild boar and deer which they had found in the ground, conducting themselves afterward to the mountain. Only then did the hunters recover themselves, and the braver aimed, but the shot did not go out, and the monsters disappeared.
It is not known that Mariang Makiling had parents, brothers, or relatives. Similar personages appear in nature, like the stones which the Tagalogs call pearl, nor is her true name known. She is called Maria in order to give her a name. She never was seen to enter the town, nor to take part in any religious ceremony. She remained always the same, and the 5 or 6 generations who knew her saw her always as young, gay, slender, and chaste. But it is now many years that her presence has not been noted on Makiling. Her poor silhouette now does not go through the deep valleys, nor crosses the waterfalls in the serene moonlight nights. Now one is not permitted to hear the melancholy accent of her mysterious harp, and now lovers are married without receiving from her either jewels or gifts. Mariang Makiling has disappeared, or at least avoids friendly contact with men. Some put the blame for this on the natives of a certain village, who not only refused to give the customary white hen, but also did not return the gifts loaned to them. Clear it is that they reject such an accusation and say that Mariang Makiling is offended because the Dominican friars seek to despoil them of their property by appropriating the half of the mountain. But an old woodcutter, who spent 65 of the 70 years that he lived in the forests of Makiling, cutting down the more secular trees, has given me another version of that. If it is not well known, has at least greater appearance of probability. At the waterfall of the mountain lived a youth dedicated to the cultivation of a small field, and he was the support of his old and infirm parents. Well-found, genteel, robust, and a worker, he possessed a noble and simple heart, although he was somewhat taciturn and uncommunicative. His cornfields became the most beautiful and best cultivated. The locusts never descended upon them, the typhoon seemed to respect them, and the droughts did not parch them. Nor did the seed rot when the torrential rains inundated the neighboring fields. Never did the plague decimate his cattle, and if one during the day lost its way, it would return safely by nightfall, as if an invisible hand conducted it. Such good fortune some attributed to certain pearls and amulets, others to the protection of a saint, and others to the heaven which protects and rewards the good sons. Nevertheless, the conduct of the youth was mysterious enough. His short times of leisure he passed wandering upon the mountain, seated beside some torrent, speaking at times alone, or appearing to listen to strange voices. Meanwhile, the time arrived to enter the drawing of lots for service in the army. God knows how much the youths feared it, and the mothers above all. Youth, home, family, good feeling, point of honor, and sometimes reputation. Goodbye. The 7 or 8 years of life of the barracks, brutalizing and vicious, in which the coarse interjections paraphrase the military despotism, armed nevertheless with the whip, are presented to the imagination of the youth as a long night which parches the most healthy and beautiful part of his life, in which one sleeps with tears in his eyes and dreams horrible nightmares in order to awaken old, useless, corrupt, bloody, and cruel. Thus it has been seen that many cut off 2 fingers to exempt themselves from military service. Others have pulled out their teeth in times in which it was necessary to bite the cartilage. Others have fled to the mountain, becoming highwaymen, and not a few have committed suicide. Nevertheless, the best precaution against this misfortune has been marriage, and the parents of our youth determined to marry him to a maiden, handsome and industrious, who lived not very distant on the same mountain. The youth, although he did not appear very enthusiastic with such a proposal, accepted it. Nevertheless, first, in order to free himself from the military draft and in order not to abandon his old parents. Since there was no obstacle to the marriage, it was quickly arranged and the day for the wedding was fixed. Nevertheless, in proportion as the said day approached, the groom became more taciturn and less communicative. He disappeared for many hours, and when he returned, they saw him to be out of breath, and many times he did not reply when they questioned him. The evening before the wedding, at night, when he was returning to the house of his betrothed, there appeared to him a maiden of extraordinary beauty. "I presently do not wish to cease to see you," she said to him, in sweet tones mingled with regret and compassion. "But I come to bring you my gift, the clothes and the jewels for your bride. I have protected you and have loved you because I saw that you were strong and a worker, and I desired to have you consecrated to me. Go, although an earthly love is necessary for you, although you have not had the valor either to confront your hard fate or to defend your liberty and to take yourself independent in the security of these mountains, although you have not had confidence in me, I who have protected you and your parents, go. I deliver you to your fate. Live and struggle alone. Live as you can." And this said, the maiden was removed to a distance and was lost among the shadows. He was left immobile and as if petrified. Later he took 2 or 3 steps to follow her, but she had disappeared. He silently picked up the bundle which the maiden had deposited at his feet and entered his house. The bride neither put on the clothes nor used the jewels, and since then Mariang Makiling has appeared no more to the rustics. The woodcutter who recounted this history to me did not wish me to hear what her hero was called. Whether this is true or not, I do not know. Various times I have wandered to the skirts of Makiling, and instead of dedicating myself to killing the poor pigeons who count their friendships in the high branches of the trees, reminding myself of what Mariang Makiling has invoked, I have listened, attentive in the silence of the forest, to perceive the harmonies of her melancholy instrument, to see if I can discern her ideal figure floating in the air, half illuminated by a ray of the moon which filtered through the thick foliage. I have left to surprise me at night. Nothing I have seen, nothing have I heard. Later I climbed to the same summit of the mountain, in that famous ascension which the friars attested to be that of a freebooter, notwithstanding the coming with us of an official and a soldier of the civil guard in the capacity of tourists. And we saw delightful places, charming places worthy to be inhabited by gods and goddesses, tall trees with straight and mossy trunks, among whose branches the vines weave most beautiful laces embroidered with flowers, most rare and varied parasitic plants, from the thread-like form to the toothed broad leaf, the split or circular gigantic ferns, palms of all kinds, tall and graceful, which distribute their symmetrical leaves in space as a splendid plumage. All this and more we have seen and admired, suspending our march at various times in order to tarry ecstatic. But neither the enchanted place nor the humble hut of Mariang Makiling were left to be seen.
Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel at FiliFest TV. Other than that, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at FiliFest, and also be sure to check out our website at filifest.co.uk, where you can check out the FiliFest shop. Thanks for watching, guys.